Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back, another Genshin Impact video, and today I thought we'd talk a bit about a subject that I find slightly interesting, which is the way that Genshin puts out characters and the sort of categorizations they have been, right? Especially for 5-star characters, because every once in a while, well, I mean, I guess it's almost every update. There's like one or two updates that didn't give us new character, but almost every update we get a new 5-star character, at least one, sometimes two, and it's usually in 3 main categories, right? Whether it's a main DPS, sub DPS, or support. And I do wonder. I'm just wondering to myself, well, how many of them have been sub DPSs? How many have been of them have been main DPSs? How many supports have we gotten? What's the ratio between them, right? And I also do want to see like the sort of difference between 5 stars in terms of categorization and 4 stars as well. So let's try to sort them out, right? First, and then we'll see what we can infer from this, right? So let's start with 5 stars. So 5 stars. Albedo's sub DPS, some support capabilities, but mainly a sub. We're just gonna sort them into their main function, right? Obviously, there's a lot of characters that could do a lot of things. Kokomi's a support. Kokomi could also DPS, but most of the time it's you know, most of the time Kokomi's just support, right? For most people, right? In terms of that C0, etc., right? So yeah, Albedo is a off-field DPS, sub DPS, whatever you want to call it, right? So main DPS is just going to be a character that's does a lot of damage, that is on field a lot, right? And needs to be on field to do their damage. And then sub DPS is a character that doesn't have to be on the field to help your team do damage, and support's obviously support, right? So, Kamisato Ayaka is mostly a main DPS, right? Again, you can run her sub DPS, but mostly a main DPS. And then if we look at Diluc's pretty much a main DPS, right? For the most part. Eula's a main DPS for sure. Who else? Ganyu is... You could run Ganyu as a sub DPS, but most of the time, you know, her charge shocks are very, very good. So most of the time she's a main DPS here. Hu Tao's a main DPS, right? Ito, for the most part, yeah, main DPS as well. Kazuha, again, you could run DPS, Kazuha at higher Constellation, etc., but for the most part, a support, right? Keqing, for the most part, a main DPS. Klee, main DPS, unfortunately. Kokomi, again, you could run DPS Kokomi. I'm not saying you can't, but most of the time, Kokomi mostly a support. Mona, mostly a support. Jean, mostly a support. Again, she could do some really, really nice damage, right? But it's mostly on-field damage, right? But people mostly, again, use for either heals, just swirl, right? That's also a big, you know, in terms of Sunfire comps, etc., right? So, yeah, so far it seems like really, there's only one sub DPS so far. There's a lot of main DPSs and a few supports here and there, but really, we haven't seen too many sub DPSs. All right, let's keep going. TC is a support, right? I know, DPS, TC, etc., etc., but mostly a support. Come on, let's be reasonable here. Shouho's a support. Raiden's mostly a main DPS, right? In terms of, you know, the way she does damage. Most of her damage is dealt with while she's on the field, right? Child's main DPS. Venti, again. DPS Venti, real. But most time, if you want to say sub DPS, I guess. But it's more so a support, right? For the most part. Again, I don't know. You know what? Let's put Venti in off-field DPS instead. Again, VV, crowd control, those are mostly support stuff. And that's the best part about him, right? But you could definitely do damage while he's off-field with his ult. Again, the difference is so large at this moment, it doesn't really matter, honestly. It still looks like sub DPS are getting destroyed in that category. Xiao's a main DPS. Yeah, Miko's an off-field, you know, sub DPS, right? Yoimiya's a main DPS. Like, she could do, you know, some support. Actually, no, it's more so some DPS stuff, right? But you're mainly using her in NA spamming, support, right, for the most part. And again, Idaho, you can run him as a sub DPS, right? I've done that a lot, but most of the time he is a main DPS. Are we missing anyone? Just double checking. She would make this a bit more even, but we don't know what she does, right? Anyways, so maybe she's a completely new kind of whatever. So yeah, that's what we have at the moment. Oh my goodness, wow, it is pretty lopsided. It is pretty lopsided. There's an incredible amount of main DPSs. There's a decent amount of supports. Like, you know, is that half? Let's count. 4, 7, 3, 5, 7, 9, 12, 13, 14. Literally twice the amount of main DPSs as there are supports, and more than twice the amount of supports than sub DPS. I mean, if you really move Venti over here, right, that's like, what, 8 to 2? That's like 4 times the amount of sub DPS. So we really don't have too many off-field DPSs for 5 stars, right? So I do wonder if they're gonna, you know, maybe balance this out a bit. But like, here's the thing though, main DPSs just sell the most, I feel like, right? Because people are always looking for that next big hard hitter that could carry the team, destroy enemies, right? That are, well, I mean, it's also fair because main DPSs are on field the most, and as a player, you get that experience playing that character the most because it's, again, on field for the most amount of time. So it makes sense that main DPS is generally the most characters that they're pushing out for 5 stars, right? So let's check out 4 stars then. Yeah, I know Aloy, Traveler exists too, but mainly I'm not really talking about the free ones, just the summable ones, right? The categorization for 4 stars is a bit more fluid than 5 stars. I feel like a lot of 4 stars, you know, a lot of times fit multiple roles more so than 5 stars do, it seems. So again, if you disagree with some placements, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's just like 1 or 2 characters in some different places. Probably won't affect the results that much because, again, we're looking at the numbers. We're not really just trying to define, you know, characters' roles are and such. So anyways, starting with Amber over here, right? So Amber, again, you could run DPS Amber, but most time Amber is for support, right? A lot of times, right? LG, Amber, you know, could do some really nice things, unironically. Barbara support, I know, DPS to Barbara, etc, but Barbara's mostly a support. Come on. Beto is a sub DPS for the most part, right? Bennett's a support for the most part as well. Chongyun, I don't know. Again, characters like Chongyun's kind of hard to, because he's like a burst support that could, you know, do some like really nice burst damage, right? So I'd say, you know what, let's put him in sub DPS, right? Down as a support. Yanfei's mostly a main DPS, right? That's that. Let's see what else. Fischl is definitely a sub DPS for the most. Again, you could whatever bow, normal attack. Fischl. Gora's a support. Okay, as a sub DPS. What are we looking at? Lisa's a weird one. I guess she's mostly a sub DPS, right? Mostly a sub DPS, I'd say. Who else? Noelle. Noelle's another slightly weird one. Let's just go with DPS. All right, let's go with DPS. Main DPS Noelle. Razor's main DPS. Rosaria. Again, it's a burst support, right? Let's just put her in sub DPS, I guess. Same thing with Sarah, but I'd maybe lean Sarah a bit towards support more than sub DPS, because most of her damage done is even if she is doing her burst damage, it is while she's on field, right, with her burst. So let's put her in support, I guess. Again, it's not saying supports can't do damage. Like Bennett could do damage, right, as well, obviously. But like Rosaria, her damage can be dealt while she's off the field, right? Same thing with some of these other guys, right? Let's see, Sayu is mostly a support. She's a support. Again, support sub DPS. Support. let's just go with support. Toma obviously support. All right. Xiangling is a sub DPS. Xingqiu is a sub DPS. She's a main DPS unless you're running support version of Xingyan, which you could totally do. Circumstances though. Yunjin is a support, right? And I think that's everyone. Oh no! It's because Ningguang's actually a 6-star, let's be real. But Ningguang's a main DPS, right? So, that being said, whether or not you agree or disagree with some of the, you know, sub DPS support placements, like again, you could maybe put Sucrose in here instead, or maybe put, you know, Rosaria in here. It doesn't really matter. Point being, both of them are pretty similar in numbers. Sub DPS support, very, very similar in numbers. The one with the lowest count in terms of 4 stars actually turns out to be the main DPSs, right? Which is basically almost the opposite of 5 stars, right? You have a lot of sub DPSs here, right? You have a lot of supports, and really not that many main DPSs, when main DPSs was like, what, twice the amount of support, and like 8 times almost, or 7 times the amount of sub DPSs, right? So yeah, I guess looking at this, it does feel like maybe, well, there's a few things we could conclude from this. Maybe their strategy for selling characters is for the 5-star characters that everyone's, you know, rushing to spend their money and primo gems on pulling for. Well, maybe making the main DPSs makes a bit more sense, because again, main DPSs, they're on field the longest, right? So players play with them the most, right, in terms of screen time, play time, on-field time, right? So that does make sense. And then maybe, you know, to round out things a bit more, they make the supports, the sub DPS, make them the 4 stars, which generally people don't chase. Some people still do. I mean, God bless people who do. But, you know, mostly people chase for the 5 stars, and a lot of them are main DPSs, right? And sometimes it's just hard to, like, I guess just create 4-star main DPSs without, like, here's the thing, like, and I love Ningguang. She's one of my favorite characters. You guys know how much I love Ningguang, but, like, let's be real. If you put a, you know, 4-star main DPS like Ningguang in comparison to, like, some 5-star, you know, same GOD, something like an Ito, right? Ningguang's great and all, but I don't think they would really much want a 4-star main DPS to power creep a 5-star main DPS, right? I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think, I'm just guessing, right? Just from a business standpoint, it's probably not a good idea for them to create a 4-star main DPS that power creeps a 5-star main DPS, right? Although, let's be real, some of this, it's, again, not saying it hasn't happened before. I would argue, even though she's not a main DPS, but, like, for example, Xiangling is probably better than Klee at this point. Maybe not even probably. In my opinion, I mean, I think Xiangling's better than Klee, right? Just as a DPS, obviously, again, she's not on field, right, in comparison to Klee. So they serve different roles ultimately, but still, right? There definitely is that. And I guess another thing is just to say, well, can we please get some more 5-star sub DPSs? Like, the 5-star sub DPSs that we've gotten so far, which are, what? Albedo, Yay Miko, and again, arguably Venti, right? Venti's just a bit too blurry terms of lines between these two, but like let's just take Albedo and Yae Miko. So far the reception for both of these characters haven't been like fantastic, right? Obviously we know the Yae Miko controversy, people hate her kit design, this and that, and I don't feel like people hate on Albedo that much, but Albedo isn't really exactly the pinnacle of, you know, a powerful 5-star. And look, Albedo's great. He has I personally like his kit a lot, right? I think he's really nice to use the off-field damage that comes from his E. He's fantastic. Run Geo teams with, especially with, you know, Joni having this, it's super fun. Very fun character. But again, on the flip side, not really the most attractive character in terms of the power levels in comparison to some other characters, right? So maybe it just is that sub DPSs are hard to sell, right? And maybe they just don't make that many sub DPSs. Maybe, I don't know. It just feels so weird because a lot of the sub DPSs, if you look at a lot of sub DPSs, right? Xingqiu, for example, Xiangling, for example, right? Those are the 4-star sub DPSs, you could argue, are better than all the 5-star sub DPSs, right? Again, Venti, if you count Venti in there, maybe Venti's better, but like, there's, at least it's debatable, right? But like, if you look at Albedo, Yae Miko, and then you look at something like, again, Xingqiu Xiangling, I wouldn't say it's a very hard argument to make that, you know, maxed out Xingqiu Xiangling is better than a maybe lower investment Albedo and Yae Miko, right? So sometimes I feel like it is, maybe it's hard for them to balance sub DPSs, but I just feel like it probably shouldn't be, right? I don't think it should be. And then again, we'll see with you know, some potential maybe hypothetical upcoming Hydro character that may or may not, you know, have a certain skill set that, you know what, let's not delve into that. Let's not delve in, don't want to get into it. But anyways, yeah, that's gonna be it for this one. Just, you know, just thought I'd categorize some of these characters, list them out, and see, you know, because I was just personally curious, right? Personally curious, and yeah, interesting. Almost like they're mirrored, 4 stars and 5 stars. Just curious in terms of their strategy for releasing 5 stars, what types of 5 stars we've been getting, how many we've had so far, right? And just in terms of, you know, what to expect in the future, I guess, versus what we probably need, right? Finally, just to combine them all together, right? It seems like support, and there's almost the same amount of supports and main DPSs, and just overall just a pretty big lack of sub DPSs overall. It's just, there's just not that many. Some of the others just really take an L in the 5-star department, right? It's only 2, arguably 3 in that department versus all the other ones. So anyways, and yeah, that's been this one, I guess. Hope you all enjoyed. Let me guys think in the comments down below. Like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the new channel for some more Genshin Impact content. I'll see you guys in the next one then.